In 1998, Gina Holmes began writing articles and short stories. In 2005, she founded a literary blog, Novel Journey, an online support group of sorts for those looking to be published. She also holds degrees in science and nursing and currently resides with her husband and children in Roanoke County. Holmes's debut novel of family drama, Crossing Oceans, from Tyndale House Publishers, has become a bestseller. It is her first published novel, but not her first novel. Gina Holmes, welcome to the interview.
Thanks for having me.
Crossing Oceans is not really your first novel, just the first novel to be published, correct?
Correct.
Talk about that journey a little bit.
I wrote 4 novels before Crossing Oceans was contracted, and those 4 were suspense novels, and each of them came close to being published, but at some point along the line they earned me a rejection, and it was a long road, about 10 years or so. When I started writing Crossing Oceans, it was very different for me as first person. It was more of a tearjerker than the suspense I was writing. So it was a very, very big jump for me. But right before then, I started revisiting classics and reading books like Peace Like a River and Memoirs of a Geisha, books that just were just amazing. And I wondered, could I do that if I tried? And so I did, and I presented a Nurse Sleuth Mystery and Crossing Oceans to my agent and said, which one of these do you think sounds more like my voice? And he said, no contest, Crossing Oceans. And so along the line, it had always been me pursuing editors, me pursuing contracts, and suddenly people were pursuing me. So I knew I had something at that point.
So apparently they like the genre of the Crossing Oceans book.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I've read some things online. People have compared it to The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks, or in the same genre, The Steel Magnolias, Hope Floats, Terms of Endearment. Some pretty high praise. Are you humbled by that, or surprised by some of that reaction you've gotten to the book?
I'm very pleasantly pleased that it's resonating with people. Who I'm compared to or who I'm not compared to, I can't really worry too much about that, because then I start having that little voice in my head as I write, and I don't need any more of those little voices telling me, you know, you're not that good, or this isn't as good as Nicholas Sparks, or this isn't as good. But I appreciate the comparison, and certainly Nicholas Sparks is a much different kind of writer than I am, but I certainly wouldn't mind a little of his success. So if people, compare us, that's probably a good thing for me.
And Crossing Oceans has actually shown up on a bestseller list, the Christian Booksellers Association list.
That's right.
CBA in the top 20.
It did.
And talk about that and how that felt for you.
Well, I went to, on Facebook, I have a lot of other novelist friends, and one of my friends on Facebook said, hey, I made the CBA bestseller list, and I thought, oh, how nice, because I remember when she got her first contract. And so I thought, how cool, I'll go look and see her name for myself on there and just be happy for her. And I was surprised to find that I, too, was on the CBA bestseller list.
Oh, they didn't even tell you?
No, it just was there, and they had my name as George Holmes instead of Gina Holmes. So, but they got the book title right, and I had indeed made it, and so that was very exciting. Usually, it's kind of the same people on those lists: Karen Kingsbury and Ted Decker, and so for a newbie to break in, it was kind of a big deal for me.
Crossing Oceans, you've remarked that your relationship with your own parents, living between 2 households, your parents split when you were very young, that some of that dynamic might have helped inspire Crossing Oceans, like Isabella, between 2 families who don't always like each other, but who all love the child they share. Was that tough for you to write about that, or did this come spilling out when you decided to write this book?
Usually when I'm writing something, I don't know what I'm writing about until after the fact, and it's finished, and I look back and it's blatantly obvious. So at the time, I didn't know that I was sort of writing pieces of my own story. And unless you know me very well, even I don't know which pieces are mine sometimes. So it's hard to pick out what exactly is mine. It's certainly not an autobiography. But there are definitely those emotions. There's that adage, write what you know. And I think a lot of people get that adage wrong, and they think, well, I've never been to Mars, so I can't write about Mars. And I don't think that's what that means. I think it means write from the emotions you know, write from the truth you know. And I certainly know what it's like to be in her position, where 2 families love her but don't love each other, and being in the middle of that.
Yeah, in this book, Jenny and her young daughter Isabella, they return home to North Carolina, dealing with a grandmother, a distant father, Isabella's father, Jenny's ex, and there's a lot of drama right there. And Jenny's facing her own challenges, obviously.
Yeah, that's very true. There's a lot of drama, and I piled as much on Jenny as I possibly could, and I think that's what makes for a good book is the what ifs and make it as bad as you possibly can, and what would you do in that same situation. It's a tough situation. I hope to never find myself in it. Nothing deepens a stream like a good rain or makes it harder to cross. Just a few hundred feet away from the home I'd sworn never to return to, I sat on the smooth surface of a boulder. With my jeans cuffed and toes wiggling in the cold water, I reflected on how recent rains had caused these banks to widen and swell. Perhaps a decent relationship with my father might also rise as a result of the storm we'd endured. Much could happen in 6 years. Maybe my absence had, as the adage promised, made his heart grow fonder. Maybe my homecoming would be like that of the prodigal, and he'd greet me with open arms. Together we'd cry for all that had passed between us, and all that should have but didn't. Maybe, maybe, maybe. It's going to go just fine, I told myself as I traced the slippery surface of a moss-covered branch with my foot. What's funny, Mommy? Isabella's voice startled me. I didn't dare admit that what my 5-year-old interpreted as mirth was really a grimace, because then, of course, she'd want to know what was the matter. Nothing, sweetness. She threw a pebble at the water, but it dropped inches from its goal, clinking against slate instead. You were smiling like this. She bared her teeth in a forced grin. Gently, I pinched her cheek. You're beautiful, Mommy. Thank you, baby. So are you. Yes, I am. I smiled at that. I smiled at just about everything she said and did.
I wanted to talk, we have a couple minutes left, about your blog, noveljourney.blogspot.com. And this is something you created. It looks more or less like a support system for writers who are looking to get published or need advice, that type of thing. Talk about that quickly.
Novel Journey started as it was supposed to be chronicling my journey to publication. It was supposed to be this, when I started, I thought I'd write a book, it'd get published, it'd be fascinating for everyone, and I joked that I put a site meter on there and found out that 3 people were reading it, and one of them was me. And so I thought I was ready to just hang it up until I discovered that I spent a lot of time Googling author interviews. I think the best way to learn how to do something is from people who've been successful in doing it before you. And so I started interviewing authors and publishers, PR people and marketers, and anybody that had anything to do with the book industry. And it's been wildly successful. We have tens of thousands of readerships a month.
Wow.
Yeah, and we've won twice Writer's Digest, one of their best sites for writers. So it's a good site, and it's very helpful to people, and it is a great networking, and not just for newbies, but people who've been in the industry a long time.
And you're already working on another novel, I guess, for a spring 2011 release, hopefully?
Originally, it was slated for spring 2011. I turned in my second book, Dry as Rain, and it needed some rewrites, and so now I'm working on that. And I've learned that I'm not a fast writer, and to rush it is not going to be helpful to me or to the readership. And I'm very excited about the rewrite. I started it, and it is 100 times better than my original idea for it. So it's going to be pushed back a little bit, but hopefully it'll be worth the wait. So now we're looking at fall 2011.
Okay. Helps to have a track record at this point as far as getting published, huh?
It sure does. It makes it a lot easier the second time around.
Last question. What would you tell, Gina, people who feel they want to write, people who feel they may have a book in them? What do you tell people as encouragement about going ahead and just doing it?
When I was starting out, I thought writing a novel was impossible until I saw that other people had done it. And I read somewhere online where it said if you write 1 page a day, at the end of the year you have a novel. And you may not be able to write a novel, but you can certainly write 1 page a day. And if you can not write, then don't write, because it is a difficult business to break into. It's a difficult business to make a living at. However, if you are a writer, you can't help but to write, and you're the only person that can tell the stories that are within you.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Gina Holmes is a best-selling author right here in the Roanoke Valley. Gina, thanks very much for coming on the interview today.
Thanks, Gene.
Our guests today on the interview have been novelist Gina Holmes and Roanoke City manager Chris Morrill. I'm Gene Marrano. You can look for me in the Roanoke Star-Sentinel Weekly, Valley Business Front, and in Play-by-Play. And don't forget, you can watch segments from the interview on YouTube. Until next time, take care.